Okay.
Welcome, everyone. This is episode 348 of an Unearthly podcast, streaming live on the 1st of April, 2020. Tonight, we review a very special episode. What could be considered the original American attempt at an American version of Doctor Who back in 1989. It's not considered canon, but we're going to look at it anyway. I am Bill Sylvia, the Man in Black, and with me are Randy Ronson McCulloch,
Oh, God, I'm so sick of getting coronavirus news pops.
Mad
And
Matt
yes, I
Winchell,
just got us demonetized again.
record time, Tim the
Uh,
Enchanter Sheridan,
Well, hello there, and welcome to our show.
and Thomas Fireheart.
I think we forgot Matt.
No, I said Matt, but then Randy said the demonetized thing, and I thought that Matt's reaction to that was his
no,
name.
well,
I don't know.
I was going to say, comic books are officially dead, at least as far as what they used to be.
Oh. So, my week's been pretty boring. How about everyone else's?
I've been watching the
Uh.
slow meltdown of everything around me that I used to love.
Pretty much the same as last week for me. Pretty much just eat, sleep, play Animal Crossing.
I've realized that I have a lot of conditioned responses to when I'm in certain places in my house. My body just assumes that I'm exhausted and need to sleep. So that's a problem that I get off of an online meeting and then I go sit on the couch so I'm not staring at a screen. And my body is like, oh, it must be time to sleep now. And I'm like, actually, no.
I've just been watching the slow downward spiral and collapse of Western society.
Well, it's not that slow. I think it's picking up speed.
I am literally waiting for the guy from Monty Python to start going down the main street going, "Bring out your dead! Bring out your dead!" You know.
I'm waiting for the Darwin Awards to come out this year. We're going to have a long list.
All right.
You had one job.
So, yep, tonight's show, we've got news and birthdays. I have a rant this week.
Oh.
So I'm going to have a little bit I want to say about a news article I saw recently and how incredibly stupid it is. Not the article, what it's about. Do you have a review of Shame, or did you not get one done?
I do not, nope.
Okay, no review of Shame. I don't think we have any geek talk this week.
Nope.
Probably because everybody's been kind of in their seclusion, their little monastery cells.
Yeah.
Jesu Domine.
The closest thing I got to geek talk is just watching how comic books is just folding like a pack of cards.
I thought about finishing the last season of Supergirl, but instead I watched the episode that I'm going to be doing for the project in my Black Mirror class.
So that probably more important, yeah.
My extra time, yeah.
I might have
that. I actually have to upload it as a YouTube video, so I'll be kind of resurrecting my YouTube career, possibly for only one day.
I will probably have something to talk about next week, but not this week. So that'll take us to the episode summary, our review, our final thoughts, and our ratings. So let's get in here and go straight to news and birthdays. And the first birthday we had was the day after our last podcast, and that's the birthday of executive producer Barry Letts, who, of course, was executive producer during the John Pertwee era, 1970 to 1974. He would have been 95, but died in 2009 at the age of 84. Next is the 28th and the birthday of Gareth David Lloyd, who played Ianto Jones in Torchwood. He turned 39. And finally... Yeah, well, you got to consider the fact that Torchwood was over a decade ago, and he was in his 20s.
Yeah, he's barely 4 years older than me.
He was younger than I am now after having appeared in Doctor Who / Torchwood for 3 years.
Yeah, we look at the companions these days and we go, they're just kids. They're just kids.
What happened to the children we used to know?
And finally, tonight sees the birthday of Sidney Newman, known as the creator of Doctor Who. He would be 103, but died also in 2009 at the age of 82.
Live just long enough to see it come back.
Actually, something's not right there. Let me go back to my
Yeah, 2009 is not 20 less than
something.
2020.
I think something got recorded wrong.
Mm.
Died in '97 at the age of 80. So
Shame.
I think I think I copied, but it didn't copy, and instead took the paste from Let's. So died in 2097. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
He's starting our future.
Sidney Newman, 2099, coming now from Marvel Comics.
I'd love that.
So we need to revitalize the brand.
We
That's
bring
the
him
perfect
back
day
from...
to announce that.
Okay, so happy birthday to Barry, Gareth, and Sydney. Moving on to news.
Okay. Apparently, as a treat to everyone under lockdown, Chibnall wrote a little bit showing the first thoughts of the 13th Doctor just after her regeneration in Twice Upon a Time, and before her appearance in The Woman Who Fell to Earth. You can read the short story on BBC's official Doctor Who website.
Yeah, it was a thing he posted a few days ago. It's interesting, but not really needed.
Yeah. Just one of those,
Kind of
I'm
like
doing
the
this
next two stories, really. They're all kind of for the same purpose.
Filler for filler's sake, because people need something because they're antsy.
Okay. And with much of the world locked indoors to avoid human malware, former showrunner RTD has uploaded a previously unreleased short story by the name of Doctor Who and the Time War. The story was written at the behest of Doctor Who magazine in 2013, but Stephen Moffat asked for it to be cancelled as it dealt with the regeneration of the 8th into the 9th Doctor, and fans know how that turned out.
Yep, because Moffat decided to add a doctor. Anyway, if you're really interested, I think both are on the Doctor Who website. So,
Yep.
Me toes, please don't step on them.
Nope.
all right. Moving on, we've got a little news under media releases.
He releases, yes. Meanwhile, Russell T. Davies has written a sequel story to the first ever New Who episode Rose, titled Revenge of the Nestine. The audience version of this short story, narrated by Jacob Dudman, is available on YouTube.
I listened to it. It's kind of interesting. It's a little bit political. I will say that. If you read between the lines, it's very political.
RTD writing something political. Who would have thought?
Let me guess. The nest tea is hot and it burns your tongue when you drink it.
That's not political, that's topical. Like a skin cream.
Yes.
I was about to say, like a skin burn.
Yes.
Spilling all the Nest tea on the current. I don't know how I was going to end that sentence without actually.
You do realize the Nestine have been at war for years with the Liptonians. I want that line in the dialogue of Doctor Who somewhere.
I mean, it would be possible. Nestea is an actual brand, so
yeah. All right.
Ever since the Battle of Bostonian, it hasn't been the same.
All right.
All right. So the latest short trip is out from Big Finish. This one involves the third Doctor and Sarah Jane Smith. NASA requests their help with the Mariner 10 probe. Apparently, the probe vanished for 30 minutes, something the Doctor finds familiar and dangerous. Narrated by Mark Reynolds, Doctor Who Short Trips, Decline of the Ancient Mariner, is now available to download exclusively from Big Finish for £2.99. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm opening it up now, but I believe this is the one where they recast Elizabeth Sladen for the first time. I remember
No, this
seeing
is
a post
entirely narrated by Mark Reynolds. It's just
Oh,
like
It's
like
it's just a narration. Yeah,
because
you're not gonna get character voices.
I believe Big Finish, because I know for some of these when it's narrated by one person, they have people of of another gender do other gender voices.
not
But I knew Big
necessarily for the
Finish,
short trips.
but I knew Big Finish had just recast Elizabeth Sladen, and I had been seeing posts about it today. That's why I thought it was
Nope.
this.
Nope. I listened to the chunk of it they did that. Mark Reynolds does all the dialogue, and he doesn't do it well.
Got you.
Oof.
He
Unless
doesn't.
it occurs to me I might have seen that post while it was already April 1st. So
That does seem to be an issue with the short trips. Is that because we're forcing one person to do it all, it doesn't come out that well.
Yes, but he
Mhm.
doesn't even try to. He doesn't even try to do an accent or
Yeah,
anything.
yeah, that's half problem with half of them. They don't even try to
So-
accents or anything.
some of the short trips, especially the ones done by former companions where they're voicing their doctor, they do great voices and accents. Some of them, some of them they don't really.
Yeah, and when they
Mm.
don't, it just becomes kind of a flat read. It's just. I tried to pay attention. I'm just like, meh.
That's
I
why
would've
that's why unless you really hear there's a positively reviewed short trips, it's probably not best not to really go into them that much.
I pick them up if I'm really interested in the story the story. So
That's true
the
too. If it
Time
sounds
War
like a
one.
story that's really going to enthrall you, then by all means. But otherwise, they're kind of iffy.
Yeah, the thing is, I would prefer to almost read them, because that way I can put the voices in my head.
Properly,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, it'd be nice if they gave you that option for sure.
All right, so that's
well.
all the news we have. I am moving on to a rant I have.
Yep.
And that is
I feel this one's allowed.
this is based off a news article that popped up on my feed. I'm subscribed to Metro, which is a UK news, because sometimes they bring me Doctor Who news. But this particular news popped up on my feed a couple mornings ago and absolutely infuriated. And that is in the midst of, all this lockdown, all this pandemic concerns. Police had to go in to somebody's house in West Derby or Derby West who were having a 25-person karaoke party. This was adults and children. What were you thinking? This is a nasty disease. It's highly contagious.
Yeah.
They are finding new ways that it's infecting people all the time.
They were saying, oh, the CDC only said no gatherings over 50 people.
No,
that changed in less than a week.
Yeah, now it's down to 2.
I know most of the bans, they could only really ban gatherings of 50 people because obviously, like, if you have certain businesses that can't close, need more than 10 people to exist. So
Well,
they
yeah, there
they
are
couldn't go as
exemptions
strict as
to
they wanted.
essential businesses.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, use some fucking common sense. This is a highly contagious disease. It is lethal to a lot of
And a
people.
karaoke party is not essential.
Right.
Definitely not
You
essential.
can do karaoke over Zoom.
You can do
You can do karaoke over multiple different things, technically speaking, if you really want to.
But teenagers with no other symptoms have been dropping dead from this. And these are probably some of the most hale people in the world. So if you think you're immortal, you think you can't get this, you're wrong.
That's noteworthy because when it first hit the US, they were saying that for some reason people under 20 seemed to be immune to it and not show any
That's
symptoms at
not what
all.
I heard. By the time I
That's
got
not
here,
what's
I was
happening
already
now.
hearing that kids were getting it, but kids were able to recover from it. As
They
were
can't.
as were
They were
depending on their
carrying
age, they can recover from
Yeah.
it as well as normal adults. Older people and extremely young children, however, have
Mhm.
issues.
I think the phrasing I had seen on numerous articles said almost no symptoms.
But that's not entirely true. There are people that are dying from this. It is a less percentage in younger people than older people,
Yeah.
But mind you, you get the disease, you can pass on the disease to your parents,
yes,
your
Yeah.
family, your loved ones, who
even,
are
even
more
if,
likely
even
to
if
die.
even if we had no evidence of teenagers getting sick from it, then they definitely can be passing to their parents, their grandparents.
Yeah.
This is a nasty virus. It has killed, I don't know how many people it's killed thus far.
We can't get an
I-
exact number because China's still playing cover up. I don't think they've updated their
So
number
is the
in
U.S.
weeks. I know it's
The
been.
U.S. is still not
I know
distributing
it's been
tests.
terrible in like Italy.
Yeah, Italy's a
Mm.
charnel
Italy's
house.
been hit the worst. But I think
Um,
we
I
have
I
more
heard somewhere
confirmed
else they
cases
were
in
starting
Italy
to
now.
catch up to Italy, and it's like, oof.
We
Yeah,
have more confirmed cases in Italy, but because we're 10 days behind them, we don't have many deaths yet.
Apparently, the worldwide total, as of like, at least as far as what we actually can, that I can like
For what we can officially
confirm,
count, yeah.
apparently a bit over 42,000. Sorry,
Uh,
47,000
I don't think
yeah,
that's
okay.
deaths.
Yeah, total
Really?
confirmed
Okay.
cases of this thing is 937,091.
Oh, okay.
Total deaths are 47,231.
Okay.
And that's reported deaths.
Yeah.
This is a nasty thing. You
So
get
there's,
it, there's
so there's
a
a
chance
4
you
in
will
90
die.
chance of you dying if you get it. So congrats, kids.
So yeah, don't say, oh, it'll never catch me, and do something stupid like having a multi-person party that you don't need to do. Try
Yeah.
to avoid contact with other people. And oh, by the way, if you think those little cloth masks that you get from like the hospital and stuff are cutting it, no, they're not.
The best benefit from them right now, apparently, is that they stop you from touching your face long enough to get you to wash your hands. But that
Except for
also
the fact,
implies that you're social distancing and washing your hands.
also the fact that touching is only one way to catch the virus.
It's still also airborne.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had
They've
heard
just-
The
aerosolized, but not
best thing that the masks can do is technically if you just so happen to maybe be having it and you don't know it yet, is that you're not spreading it, at least not by breathing.
Wrong.
And even that's iffy.
Viruses are so small they will go right through the holes in the mask.
Mm.
So you're the
So you're better off with a gas mask.
you're better off with those heavy duty filter masks that you can get from the store, like the ones they recommend for you when you're doing paint and stuff.
Yeah, the ones that
Yeah.
actually have like the almost the gas
Yeah.
mask nozzles on them.
And while we're on that note, because I know at least one person sent this chain letter to me thinking it was true. Drinking hot water does not do a damn thing to kill the virus.
No,
Not a damn thing.
nothing.
Also, I don't know if anyone's heard the thing about blowing a hair dryer in your face. That's not going to do a damn thing either. Except maybe
I actually
dust up
heard
your
someone
nose.
was dumb enough to try and go for that in the news, and it's like, no, you idiot.
Because
All
it's somebody impersonating, I think, like pretending they're a researcher from a major university or lab or something. So it's like they're putting fake credentials onto the post, so people are believing.
Yeah, the only things I can remember is people were like, "Oh yeah, heat will kill it." It's like, well, there's still been cases in Australia and deaths,
Oh,
so I don't know what
and
that's
I
on about.
forget what it was now. There was also a mention of some sort of chemical that might be a possible answer for the cure. And
That
no, yes, it is in
It's-
certain
yeah.
things, but that doesn't mean you need to go drinking them because it's for A,
Yeah, it
diluted,
was like
B,
some.
it's the chemical it's part of is dangerous to you still, you idiot.
Yeah, it was
it's
some
it's
chlorine
not
related
tested for
thing.
this,
And it's not
to
tested for it,
be
so it's not guaranteed
fair,
yet.
people with lupus and other diseases actually need that. So everybody who's going out and hoarding it is kind of just fucking over those people.
Yeah, and I mean, there are currently clinical trials for drugs to treat this going on in various locations. Nothing that has passed through, normal CDC or anything yet, but they're working on it. Progress is being made, so keep that hopeful in your mind. But in the meantime, stay away from other people if you can possibly help to. Do your best not to become a plague bearer.
Which is why I'm doing my
Yes.
best not to go grocery shopping even though I easily could, I'm just trying to use up the random shit in my apartment before I go out and buy anything.
Yeah, go.
Or, or to
we-
do all my shopping
Mhm.
for multiple weeks at one time.
Aaron and I still go grocery shopping once a week, but that's all we do.
Hmm.
We go
Mhm.
grocery shopping, and at the most, we'll drive through someplace for food.
Mm-hmm.
We don't sit. We don't sit and eat because, well, most of the restaurants aren't even open anymore.
Yeah,
Um,
they are. They're most of them are
I
forcing drive-through
I
anyway.
I know the tri-state area banned sitting down to eat. I don't know about any other states. California probably too.
a lot of
Um,
places are.
Yeah. I
But
know
it's
in
just,
Australia they've just flat out in the shopping center I work at, they've just up in the food court. All the tables that can be removed pretty much have been, and all the
Mhm.
chairs that they can get rid of have been
just
gotten rid of.
stay
Yeah.
home if you stay home if you absolutely can, and if you have to go out, be as precautionary as you can.
Yeah,
Mm.
that's why at my job we solved the problem of how do we convince takeout customers that they can't sit down and eat by making it drive-through only.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
That's what most workplaces have done. But yeah,
Yeah.
There's a few places like Subway where they don't have a choice, but I'm pretty sure they've found their own methods to make sure that people don't stay.
Yep. And then the
delivery or
Subway too,
closed.
you can take the chairs away.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Mm-hmm.
Subway is
Mm.
basically delivery or closed right now. But yeah,
Yeah.
if you can stay home, stay home. If you have to go out, be as careful as possible. Stay 6 feet away from people, and do what you need to, and go back home.
Mm.
All right, that ends my rant.
Which brings us
All
back
right.
to you for the summary.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about this little 89 gem, shall we?
All right. I'm ready. You need a countdown?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Starting 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, so we open basically with the Time Lords in the future, as they basically hire the Doctor, as played by George Carlin, to fix a pivotal point in history. He is sent back to basically modern time at that time, which was basically 1988, to the town of San Dimas, California, to assist two people who are pivotal to history. One is by the name of Bill S. Preston, and the other is Ted Theodore Logan. They have a future which basically will make them the greatest celebrities in the history of the world, but they first have to pass a history exam, which they are currently failing badly. And if they fail that, they fail school, and Ted is being threatened to be sent to a military academy in Alaska, which will break them up and they won't be the band. The problem is, these two are idiots. I mean, this is Southern California, and they are your standard Southern California dunderheads. The stereotypical Southern California dunderheads, I should say.
Send your complaints to Randy.
Hey, I used to live there. I have some experience. Anyway, he basically shows up with the TARDIS, now configured to look like a public phone booth, and basically takes them on a trip into history to where's the first place they go? Uh, uh,
I'm trying
Is
to
that the
remember.
Wild West?
Austria,
Oh
Austria.
yes.
Austria, like 1801, I think. And there
Yep.
they see Napoleon's army battling that. And that was just an intro, so he then takes them back, but they accidentally managed to suck Napoleon with them to modern day San Dimas. He then leaves them the TARDIS and takes off on his own. This leaves, of course, Bill and Ted to figure out how they're going to do this history exam. And when they discover that they have Napoleon, that gives them the idea to go through time and kidnap some of the greatest historical figures in history and force them to act in their report. So the first place they go, the Wild West, and they kidnap Billy the Kid after a bar fight. Next to ancient Greece, and they pick up Socrates. Then they stop in medieval England, where they promptly fall in love with a couple of princesses try to rescue them and fail, nearly get themselves executed. But Socrates and Billy the Kid managed to have them escape on a cart, because if anybody can, Shanghai a horse-drawn carriage, it'd be Billy the Kid. They go out in the woods, and then they try to take off, but as they're leaving, a knight for that castle smashes his mace into the antenna on the top of the TARDIS, causing it to go a little out of control. They still manage to pick up a few more people, such as, let's see, Genghis Khan, Abraham Lincoln, Joan of Arc, Sigmund Freud,
Beethoven.
Ludwig von Beethoven.
Mhm.
I think that was everybody.
That sounds about right.
And then they have to stop briefly in the time of the dinosaurs to fix the antenna so they can move on. They get back to San Dimas to discover that Napoleon, who they had left with Ted's brother, has been ditched and is wandering somewhere in modern-day Southern California. They leave the remaining people at the San Dimas Mall to get acquainted with modern-day stuff and go to chase Napoleon, who has basically proven to be a bit of a dick and has gone to the local water park, Waterloo, where he is basically having a good time, and they have to basically force him to leave. By this point, the others have basically wreaked havoc on the San Dimas Mall. Beethoven has discovered the glory of keyboards. Billy the Kid, Socrates, and Sigmund Freud try to pick up chicks. Joan of Arc takes over a aerobics class. Genghis Khan goes ape shit in a sporting goods store. Need I go on?
That's good.
Yeah.
That covers most of them anyway.
They all get arrested by Ted's father. And Bill and Ted have to go in and rescue him, using a bit of circular logic of doing stuff later to have effect earlier. Using the TARDIS, they manage to get a hold of their keys, leave a recording, and drop a trash can on on Ted's father's head. Due to that, they rescue everybody, and they all get back to the auditorium just in time to basically turn their report into basically a rock show, where they introduce all the historical figures and of course wind up acing their report. As a reward for them, the Doctor goes back, picks up the princesses, brings them to Bill and Ted, and gives them some new guitars. Unfortunately, he fails to teach them how to play. He does say they will get it better eventually. The end.
All right. 6 minutes to 2 seconds.
It was a freaking,
It's a long one. It's technically like a
I-
four-parter if we went classic Who.
I cost
A
him
little
like
longer.
5 seconds, I think.
All right, so what did we like about this? And I forgot to do the names.
Oh
I was
no.
a little distracted. Well, it's not like I can't do that in 30 seconds. All right, 4 of us here. Looks like Matt's first.
Oh, I'm first. General thing I liked overall.
Yeah.
Especially for its time in the 80s, this was some generally pretty good special effects. There was shots of the TARDIS that both going through the vortex as well as outside of it being moved around that had to do a lot of hand animation by the look of it.
Well, I think this kind of
The time stuff in the
theatrical
time
movie-
vortex was more digital, but it was a very different take on it than normal. Trying to think if there's anything else visualized. There's a few times. There's one actually. I think we skimmed over it a little bit. There was one time that went to the future as well, and they needed a few visuals for that,
All right.
which were pretty interesting as well.
Okay. Tim, how about you?
I really liked the presentation of the historical figures and like how well they adapted to the concept of time travel and living in late 80s Southern California.
Well, some of them adapted, some of them didn't adapt too well.
Their mileage did vary.
Yeah, Genghis Khan
Yeah.
didn't adapt too well.
Hmm.
Honestly, I
he
think
did-
I think Bill and Ted gave them too much sugar.
possibly, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, especially some of them adapted well. The ones that couldn't speak English had trouble adapting at all. But yeah,
Well, I think they did they did a good job of like picking which ones would adapt. Like obviously Billy the Kid would fit in.
he's only 100 years off the mark, so he's just like,
Yeah.
that's a hell of a ride.
Yeah.
All right, Thomas.
Um, I guess I'm gonna go with the cinematography because God knows this is probably better quality than Doctor Who usually has. I guess it's just a matter of whoever the director was just decided, you know what, fuck it. I don't want to have this look dated. I want to have this decent, and it looks like they shot on location for the most part. For like pretty much all of this, like even the
The director
houses
was
just look
Stephen
like.
Herrick.
Ah,
Um, he had done actually. This is only his second directing
Oh,
thing.
oh,
Um, he had done Critters before this.
ooh!
oh.
I liked Critters, so both his movies, first two movies, were really good.
Hmm. But
And
yeah,
then
like,
after that, he did the Mighty Ducks and the '93 Three Musketeers.
Oh,
hmm,
Oh.
did well for
yeah,
himself.
Mm-hmm.
hmm. I mean, in a way, I wonder how they had the budget to be able to shoot on location in random people's houses. Maybe they just knew who they were. But yeah, like all the
This seemed to
all
be
the
almost like a
location.
movie, so I assume because American
Mm,
budgets, they probably had more stuff, or either they
yeah,
actually had places they could rent, or they built
yeah.
sets for inside.
That might be part of it. And also, I guess they probably just had seen Spearhead from Space and were like, well, that held up because that was shot entirely on film, so we'll do the same thing.
Possibilities.
All right, Bill.
I really like the idea of casting George Carlin as the Doctor.
Damn it, Bill.
Although I do wish we saw a little bit more of him because I think he could have been really great in some, Doctor speech moments. Give some of the
hmm
monologues he's well known for. But even though we don't see a whole lot of him, I think he was still a great casting decision.
Yeah, had they canonized this,
Hmm.
he would have been called the foul mouthed Doctor.
Right.
And I mean, hell, it's not exactly as if
Well,
he's.
he knows what words not to say on the TV.
True.
So
Very true.
Like it is a thing of he. It's not like he's inexperienced with doing kid-friendly stuff anyway, especially since he
mhm.
was the narrator for Thomas the Tank Engine and
Yes,
Friends
he
for a
was.
while. So,
Shining Time Station.
hmm.
Yeah. Uh, Still, I mean, it's kind of hard to try to strike the balance between that and the irreverent Carlin we see in his stand-up,
Mhm.
Hmm.
or the character we see in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like they just tried to make up for the fact that they didn't get to do that by letting, I guess not necessarily letting him get vulgar or anything, but like by letting Capaldi be like another grumpy doctor for a bit.
All right. So I'm gonna have to go with the costuming. I guess what I liked on this. Um, you got the future Time Lords who look very chillin'. Napoleon looks fairly accurate. Joan of Arc, Socrates, they look pretty good.
They all definitely look their
Mhm.
part.
And for two basically high school near dropouts, yeah, they got Bill Preston and Ted Logan pretty good too.
Hmm.
Ugh,
Considering
80s.
the era, late
Yeah.
80s, early 90s.
Yeah. So let's talk
Yeah.
about what we disliked about this, Matt.
We mentioned that George Carlin didn't get much time as a doctor, and I will say that's one of the things that did bother me. This is obviously a very Doctor Light story, as they're focused on these other two, but I really felt like it could have used more Carlin and could have used some more of the Doctor to help flesh things
Anything
out.
can use more Carlin.
Anything, yes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but this in
Yeah.
particular, we barely get like 2 or 3 moments with him.
I know,
Yeah.
but that's just like saying it needs more cowbell.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's like Gone with the Wind would have been a much better movie with George Carlin.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a shit.
Yeah. It's one of those things where you wonder if it was like a scheduling thing that he was barely in it, or if it was on purpose, or if it was
You
just
know what? He was
money.
popular enough at the time that may have been a thing.
Mm.
It's possible, or it's possible
Because
that's just how
he
they wrote
was
it.
all over the place in the late 80s and early 90s in particular.
Mm.
All right, Tim, how about you? What did you dislike?
Oh, I disliked the sad glimpse into the home lives of our companions, Bill and Ted. Like, the fathers are either their fathers. Both of them are severely lacking in substantial father figures in their lives, and this is clearly the cause of their disgruntled.
Especially in the case of Ted.
Yes, especially in
Yeah.
case of
His
Ted, it
Mm.
seems.
father's a complete asshole, and seems to be
Yep.
looking for an excuse to ship him to military academy.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I mean,
Mm.
even though he knows that it's the make or break on this report, he seems to go out of his way to prevent him from completing the report.
Just
I
about.
kind
Yes.
I
Mhm.
kind of wished they had done like a Days of Future
Mhm.
Past / Pyramids of Mars thing, where they showed like
Mhm.
what happened if he got sent to the military academy and things were drastically different and became a completely different person versus
Like
the
some
people
kind
they
of
were
World
trying to
War
encourage.
III scenario. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Possibly, yeah.
All
Yeah,
right.
and even Bill's father is like such a deadbeat.
He is, but he's less so. He at least seems to try to care, just fails.
He tries to care, fails, and seems like his mind is on other things a lot
Yeah.
lately.
Mhm.
Mm.
Like his wife that's 20 years younger than him.
Mm.
Yeah. That leads to all kinds of weird moments.
Yes, it does.
Mm.
So Thomas, how about you? What did you dislike about this?
I just don't like how they never seem to explain it, so I just have to assume they forgot that. Where's all the extras? Like, why the fuck did they think the TARDIS should work like this? It's they don't even go any
It was
further
in
in. They
simple
just
mode apparently.
yeah, like
I gotta wonder if
like
maybe it's just a model they loaned them.
Are you talking about the time,
Mm.
including the time where they were like surfing through the vortex, hanging out the door?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do remember there is that scene in Utopia where they're traveling through the vortex with Jack hanging off the edge of the TARDIS.
So it's not
Mm.
impossible, but
So it's not
definitely dangerous.
impossible.
Jack was a fixed
Mm.
point.
True, it did kill him and he came back, but
Mm.
the TARDIS has been known to erect a
Uh.
force field around itself.
That's also true.
Mm. Yeah, and it's just like if they remembered, or if they'd at least written it into the script of like, well, at something happened and it's stuck. It still works, but it's stuck as as a normal phone booth instead of like the proper TARDIS where they can go in further. That would have made sense, but it's like, God, you would have solved the problem of it being so cramped at one point if you remembered how the TARDIS worked.
Yeah, I mean they're still managing to fit like
mean-
what, damn near a dozen people in there.
They did at
Yeah.
the very minimum have clown car physics involved, considering it was packed with 4
Yeah.
people, and then they stuck another 4 in.
Yeah,
Mm.
and especially when you consider the fact that some of the later people were some of the biggest ones, including
I-
Genghis Khan and
Yeah.
Lincoln.
Abraham Lincoln.
Mm.
Yeah, I would
Dude, you're
love to see,
built way too tall.
I would love to see you fit 8 to 10 people inside a old phone booth
Mm.
normally So there was
Yeah.
there was still some hinky face space physics going on
I'm
there.
pretty sure you try squeezing in 8 kids, you're already having difficulties.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we copy Puddle's pity party like 7 times and try to fit all 8 of Puddles in a phone booth? Yeah, I don't think that'll work.
No.
All right, Bill, how about you?
This is what I disliked.
Yes.
I thought the B plot with Napoleon was not executed as well as it could have been. I think there needed to have been somebody for Napoleon to play off a little bit more if they were going to do that. As it was, I think it would have almost been better for him to mostly have just been unconscious in the room because I felt it was more of a distraction and not really as effective or as comedic as I think they were trying to make it.
It mostly
Mm.
was. It's like Rowling's get on with it moments. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
so we
Mhm.
get it. Napoleon's a dick. Move on, please.
Yeah,
Napoleon's
so
a bit
like
of an
if
ass, and he just ends up by himself. Okay, got it.
now
Move
if it
on.
was like Napoleon and like Billy the Kid playing off each other, it would have been great.
Well, yeah, but
Yeah.
then who would you have Socrates to play off of?
True.
mean,
Okay,
those-
that was
those
just an
became
example,
the-
but yeah.
Those two kind of
Yeah.
became the buddy thing.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
they became by quick. The first scene they're alone together. They're behind Bill and Ted, and they're playing like toss of a football.
Yeah. Billy pulls out like
True.
a Nerf football, and they're tossing it back and forth.
Right.
Yeah. Um.
But
Yeah,
that was
it's
just
one
an
of those
example. It
things.
could have been a new character that wasn't that
Yeah.
never existed in the original.
Mm.
It's one
Actually,
of
it would have
those.
been funny if they'd picked up Sigmund Freud there, and you would have had Napoleon being an ass and Sigmund Freud diagnosing him.
Trying to figure him out. Yeah.
Uh,
And they probably
it,
both knew German.
it's one of those things
Possibly.
where you wonder if this was initially maybe supposed to be like a 2 or 3-parter, and then they had to stretch it out. So they added the Napoleon subplot because they were like, "Well, fuck it, we can still."
Well,
get
I mean,
action
this was what, basically a backdoor pilot.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
It's
I don't
kind
think
of
they
like
were-
the later '90s movie.
yeah.
Mm.
So I don't think trying to stretch it, it just had to fit the 2-hour length.
Mm.
I think it was just the fact that they were like, we still have this character. What the fuck do we do with them? Okay, we'll add some scenes.
Mhm.
We'll add some scenes, and we'll fill in the time clock.
Mm-hmm.
It was because they mentioned him in the early scene, the opening scene.
They
I
also had
think.
to keep him because they
And
mentioned him earlier too.
they were like,
Long
well, now
Joan
what do we
Arc.
do with him? Hmm.
Mm.
Okay, so was that up to me? What I dislike?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think so.
Continuity.
Mm.
Mm.
Do I have to even spell it out? How many continuity gaffes and errors they make with this? Not to mention the fact how shoddily they play with the laws of time.
Mm.
Oh. Do I need to even mention causality? I mean, Jesus.
Mm.
It's played so, normally you mess with time, you have consequences. The doctor's always taking consequences, and it's like, here, kids, here's my time ship. Have fun.
Might as well just be hitting the stereotypical dun 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 right from there.
I mean, this is something Rick from Rick and Morty would do.
Yeah.
Continuity is one thing, or maybe it's like a bootstrap paradox, and everything that happened is how it happened to begin with.
Don't bring up Moffat loops.
I mean, they do kind of use Moffat tricks in this.
Yeah, they do. They bring that. They do it constantly. It's like, yeah, we'll just have to go back in time and steal the keys and then leave them here.
After that scene, they start to abuse it.
Yeah.
The stealing the keys. I think that's something that was before. I think that had been done before Moffat. I'm not coming up with a specific moment, but I don't think he was the first. That's not as egregious because you know where the idea originated. Whereas
But
the
actually,
whole
I will give the keys at the very least because they started that off very early in the movie.
But it
Right.
quickly became a crutch.
But yeah, after
Yeah.
the scene where they're like, you know what, maybe we bring them into the future here,
Mhm.
and then they just
But-
completely abuse it. They add a tape recorder, they add a garbage can, and a couple other things, I think.
That said, the whole history that they were like, oh, this is the history the way it should be, seemed like it never naturally would have occurred without the doctors getting involved. So
Mm.
that definitely is
Broken time. Yeah.
broken. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure like majority of these figures are going to have their minds wiped in order to
I
not
I, I,
spread
I I
stuff.
did
Yeah.
notice that Bill and Ted never touched Bill and Ted. I was happy
Yep.
about that.
Oh, true. They did keep their
Blinovich,
distance.
Blinovich
And
remained happy.
I was specifically watching their hands to see if they high fived or something, and they never
Yep.
did.
Yep.
Mm.
So they kept Blinovich happy. I was happy about that.
Hmm.
Mm.
All right. So favorite scene, Matt.
Favorite scene. Oh, a matter of fact, I think I wrote this down somewhere. Oh gosh. What was the exact quote? Something very strange is afoot in the Circle K.
Mm.
Just when the doctor first appears to them, and
There are strange things afoot at the
the
Circle
strange
K.
things are afoot at the Circle K. Yeah,
Yeah, that
It's
they
weird
actually
to me that those two would know what the word afoot means.
yeah. Every once in a while, they throw in
Mm.
big words like that. It's very strange, and it's the first time they do it.
Yeah.
yeah, it's not the first time they do it, but it's something they do now and then.
It's definitely one of the notable times they do it, and it's just like,
Yeah.
okay.
It's like maybe they're not idiots, but they don't apply themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Or,
Mm.
It's possible that
tends to
someone
be,
hasn't kicked them in the right direction.
it tends to be
Hmm.
Bill to be the one I think that tends to make the big words because Ted's just kind of dumb. All right. So Tim, what's your favorite scene?
Oh, it's a short scene, but when they lure Genghis Khan into the TARDIS with a Twinkie.
Here's a Twinkie, Genghis Khan.
Uh-huh.
You hungry? Say please.
Please, is like
And you,
there's some Genghis Khan has. I don't believe he's ever seen a Twinkie at this point in his life, and yet it's an innate need for a Twinkie that drives him.
the thing is, he's got food and sex right there. He's just given up food for sex, and they lure him away with a Twinkie because it's a different food.
It's a different, brightly colored food, and
Yes.
looked like it could be a goddamn slice of Gouda or some
I'm
cheddar.
wondering if they had just jangled keys if he had followed.
Possibly.
You look like you're from a land I've not conquered yet.
All right, Thomas, favorite scene.
Um. Wait. Yeah. Now I remember. Like I was almost thinking of like, did I have one? Oh wait, I did. The bit where they first meet Socrates, and it's just like, come on, you got to philosophize with him, and just the all we are is dust in the wind bit.
And they try to mime it out, and
Mhm.
then Socrates
Yeah.
comes out with, like sands through the hourglass. Those are the days of our lives.
I was assuming they were quoting a song, but I wasn't familiar.
Dust in the Wind is a song, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All we are is dust in the wind.
Yeah, it's an older song, which surprised that they knew it.
Well, it's
Yeah.
still 70s rock. It's like maybe a decade ahead of them.
Mm.
Oh yeah, it's Kansas, 77. I thought it was older than
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, it's about a decade. A little smidge over maybe, but it's only in 70s.
It always hit me as being a bit soft. That's all.
Well, it's still from a rock band, and it's one of their slower tunes.
Yeah. It always sounded more 60s to me, so I thought it was 60s rock. So I was off there.
Yeah.
Nope, I know my rock.
All right, Bill, your favorite scene.
So this is a small, stupid moment, but I was
The whole thing is stupid.
I know.
But
But it was surprisingly like gratifying, and we're looking at this through the whole lens of the focus as on how these historical figures would react to the modern day, even though most people would use their imaginations. But in this case, the writers of the episode used their imaginations instead of the students. And I liked how Socrates gave this statement about how he loved baseball, and it was like that's something that the average person would not think that he would react to in any way. But it's absolutely reasonable to think that a historical figure would react to modern day entertainment and have an emotional reaction. So I enjoyed that moment.
Okay.
And
I have
baseball's a simple enough sport. Even he could get it.
yeah. I mean,
Damn.
it's
Shitting on Socrates.
it's evolved from rounders, which was evolved from stickball. So yeah, basics of it have been around for years. But so I've got two favorite scenes. One of which is brief. The mental image of Sigmund Freud holding a corn dog.
Sometimes a corn dog's just a corn dog.
Yes,
Except
but when
with
they
Sigmund
start
Freud.
laughing, except when they start laughing at him, the corn dog starts to droop.
I didn't
I think
notice
I
that.
actually missed that moment watching it.
Oh yes, oh yes.
I just remember him getting called a geek. He's like, "What is a geek?"
I was gonna say that must have been during the "What is a geek" scene.
No, it was before that. It
was
was
just moments before that.
When the ladies start laughing at him, you just watch the corn dog start to go down, and I'm just like, that's fucking perfect. My other favorite part was Beethoven's Mall concert.
Oh yeah.
I think like the only backups I had, like a backup that I just thought of when Freud came up was like the bit in the presentation at the end where it's just like, oh no, I think it was Bill's just like, oh no, I don't like I'm fine. I just have a mild Oedipus complex.
He said Oedipal, but that's
Oedipal complex, yeah.
Yeah, and then you watch the principal, I think it was, or the teacher look at Missy, and she looks back
like,
I don't know.
Also, my second runner will be the scene when they're all running away from the police. All the past people are running away from the police. Literally, you see Billy Kid and Genghis Khan getting up, and you see the police coming after them in the background. They both just look at each other, go bogus, and start running.
And then slip.
And then they proceed to
because they're in the middle of
slip
an
moments
ice
later.
rink.
Yep.
How many malls do you know actually have an ice skating arena in them anymore?
Anymore, not many. Most of them have probably gotten rid of those to make more space for stores or something.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, just to let you know, historical fact check: San Dimas actually does exist. I think I mentioned that to these guys prior.
Yeah, you mentioned that prior.
But did it have a mall with an ice rink?
Actually, I can't tell because I'm looking at Google Maps at San Dimas now, and probably where the mall would be is basically a giant Costco.
Let's sigh.
That sounds about right.
That sounds about right, yeah. How's the Beatles song go? Change forever, but not always for better.
I know that the location for Waterloo exists, and that's the Raging Waters Park, but
yeah,
I
remember you mentioned that too.
I cannot find a large shopping mall in the San Dimas area anymore. There might be one. San Dimas Plaza Shopping Center, so that might be where it was.
Might be where it was. It might have even changed some things since then anyways, so it's going to be barely as we remember it from the movie.
If it ever was.
Mm-hmm. If it ever was, because you never know. They could have shot that in location somewhere else.
Yeah, also the fact it's California, so why the heck do you need an indoor mall?
Yeah. That's just it. They probably just went, you know what, this is inefficient, and wiped it.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, least favorite scenes. Matt.
Try to think. Least favorite scene. Gosh. There's a lot of this is really good, so it's gonna be down to nitpicks, like the biggest nitpicks. I will say probably the least favorite scene is just Napoleon having the ice cream because the hosts at the place where they're eating are kind of annoying, and again, this is just a nitpick. But yeah,
it is a nitpick because I've seen ice cream places that do that shit.
Ugh.
Mm,
I've
There
never been
used to
to
be
any of
one in
them,
Yeah.
so
There used to be one in Prairie du Chien.
yeah. I will admit, with the voices they were putting on and everything, it felt like this almost feels like it was a scene out of a Muppets movie from around then.
Mm-hmm.
or something. Yeah, it's just really odd scene.
Like I can just picture them doing that, and then Miss Piggy beating the shit out of both of
Although I
them.
will say it does tie into the Napoleon's jerk and an annoying piece of work as he's like hogging the
Mm,
ice cream for himself and stuff.
yeah.
But the rest of it kind of is a bit sketch.
Hmm.
Again, just a nitpick. It's just a scene I didn't care for.
Oh, so apparently the bowling alley that they filmed in there no longer exists.
Oh, for sure, the bowling alley. That's a hilarious scene. Yep.
Oh wait,
Oh,
no, it does. It
Nope.
does. I'm sorry.
oh, thank God.
Yeah, it just changed owners a few times.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's fairly
So,
common with bowling
if
alleys.
we want to make a pilgrimage to the Doctor Who 1989 bowling alley, then we
It still
can.
exists.
If-
It just changed
if-
hands.
If I do somehow in the next 2 weeks get an acceptance letter to UCLA and I end up going there, I will definitely make a pilgrimage to Sam Demas.
Just to have a look around.
Okay. So the Circle K store is at the intersection of Southern and Hardy in apparently Tempe. So it might actually been done in Arizona.
Hmm.
Oh,
I might be going to school
actually, you
there
know what?
too.
That wouldn't surprise me. They're just using a lot of location shots.
Actually, apparently the bowling alley was there. Is in Tempe too. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, because
Whoops.
some of the shots that they did for the water park was done in Mesa, Arizona.
So if I go to ASU, then I'll take a pilgrimage to on location filming San Dimas.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so where were we? Least favorite scenes.
They've never
Tim.
seen me, so next.
Who?
You. What's your least
Tim.
favorite scene?
Okay.
Oh, my least favorite scene is when the old British guy sentences Bill and Ted to be beheaded because, I mean, they were so good at like establishing actual historical figures, but we don't know who this guy is. What's his name? Like, is he
Yeah,
supposed to
yeah.
be the king,
Yeah.
or
He's-
is like,
He was an ugly dude, they said.
yeah.
That's all they basically
Mm.
say about him. He's an ugly dude that somehow had
I believe his casting name is Evil Duke.
that somehow had 2 daughters.
Mm-hmm.
But that like that was just weak writing, I think.
Hmm.
Mm.
No.
Kinda,
Well,
sorta.
if he was a historical figure, his daughters would have been historical figures, and therefore taking
Yeah.
them out of time permanently would have been a bad thing.
Yeah, true.
Mhm. Yeah. So generally, he must have been some random and no one actually notable.
Unless they were actually meant to like be beheaded in real life, but I think people usually did that to their wives, not their daughters.
Depends on who you were. If you're a tutor, yeah, you're right.
Mm.
Okay, Thomas, least favorite scene.
I thought about it a lot, and I was like, could I think of something more egregious than this one moment that bugs me? And a lot of them were just jokes that didn't land, so I was like, eh. So being that this is what it is, and regardless of whatever, it's just like this really bugged the shit out of me, and that was when they like it's after that little sword fight, they tumble down the stairs, whatever the fuck. Bill thinks Ted's dead or whatever. Turns out he's not. They hug, and then they push off and call each other a fag. And
Yeah,
Yeah,
again,
that's
as
something that didn't age
yeah,
well. Yeah.
that
Yeah,
is
that-
like, and it's the only instance of
Yeah, the only
anything
instance
like
is kind of out
that.
of the blue.
yeah.
Like, so there isn't even. I mean, far be it from a podcast full of white people to say how racist or not racist potentially Genghis Khan was handled.
Yeah,
But
I thought
even
about
that for
that.
Doctor, yeah, like I mean, it's better than it's better than Talons of Wing Chun Hang, but
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
but that moment was just so out of nowhere that it was just like, they never bring that up again. It's like they never do anything like
It
that before or
it
after, so it's just
it was
like,
in it was very Anglo-centric, and that the people at the English-speaking people definitely got, or even hell, they even
yeah,
made Freud an English-speaking person just because his dialogue was the most important part, whereas the
mm,
others were mostly played for comedy.
yeah,
Yeah, it was a moment of kind of awkwardness that didn't age well,
mm,
because obviously it was from an age when
They're
um
still paranoid about it.
yeah,
mm.
when
And it's just
homophobia
one of
was
those,
still overly rampant.
yeah, and it's just one of those things of like, you could have, and it almost seems out of character as well, because it's like these are two characters who seem pretty, I mean, not necessarily open minded, but they're just kind of dumb stoners. They're not
Hmm.
like, high school jocks like that one guy you see a few times. So it's like,
Right.
it seems kind of weirdly out of character for those two to make that kind of joke.
But that's definitely the insidiousness of that kind of culture, because I could
Mm,
definitely, in that time period, that's how the average person would have not even knowing how harmful it was, have those kind of beliefs.
Hmm.
mm,
Yeah, it's one of those things that, nobody really thought about it in 1989 or
Except the
88,
people who were affected by it, which was a relatively small amount of the population.
but is glaringly obvious in 2020.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they did anything like never mind. Yeah, it just doesn't strike right. And I would assume that like, a couple years later they probably wouldn't even done that joke at all.
Mm,
I think it would have taken
10
about
years
5 to 10.
later.
Yeah, 5 to 10
Mm,
is what I was gonna
Yeah,
say.
yeah, like I said, a couple years later,
yeah.
like another
mhm.
5, you wouldn't even touch that joke.
Mm.
It's like, you look at old Disney stuff and you look at how racist it is.
Mhm.
It's like,
All I
oh
have
yeah,
to say is mention the title "Song of the South" and everyone twitches and
Mm,
Right.
cringes.
yeah.
Yeah,
But when that came out, it was freaking winning awards for how great it was. So
yeah,
So
mm,
I like that we're on this particular track because it kind of segues into what I wanted to talk about.
okay,
Um, and
mhm,
that was that I know this is very common with movies, especially a few years back. But the fact that the princesses are basically presented by the doctor to the two of them as almost, he doesn't use the word prize or win or anything like that, but they're very clearly presented as kind of a trophy for succeeding. They,
yeah.
their whole
almost,
thing happens
yeah,
mostly on off screen, and it's, on one
Mm,
hand, I was happy to see that they got out of that situation.
yeah,
On the other hand, it felt like they were being treated as less human than the other time traveling characters.
so
yeah.
yeah, they've always uh they
And usually Doctor Who, I think, is usually better than that because there's usually
Yeah.
female main characters who are
mm-hmm,
driving
Mm.
dialogue and things like that, but
I
not
mean,
the case
this
here.
wasn't too far after Mel, but even then, like,
Mhm. But even then,
mm,
Mel had agency. She was
yeah,
yeah,
an imperfect character, but she
if
was
they had had the
driving
scene
things, and
where they
she
had
was
come out
nobody's pride.
having won and they're just like, let's go back and save the princesses, would that have bothered you so much?
No, I don't think it would have, because it wasn't like, this was basically, congratulations, here's your princesses,
yeah.
Mm.
and
I was
that's
kind of
yeah.
not what would
expecting
have
a scene where they
happened.
went back to, and that never happened. I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, hmm,
Even
Mm. Yeah,
even
they're
if they
just
were
gonna
just like,
forget about
oh,
it.
you know, Socrates is here to stop, to pretend to be an executioner and save you because Billy the Kid is off saving the princesses. Even though you could argue that's a damsel in distress thing, it definitely would not have struck the same chord with me and bothered me in that way.
Mm.
At the same time, yeah, that would have made a lot more sense because at least Billy the Kid's armed and he could
I mean,
actually
Mhm.
fend off
I only
getting the
remotely
princesses to
understand why
escape.
they didn't jump aboard when they were on the coach, and that's just because there wasn't any room in the TARDIS at that
Yeah,
point.
Mhm,
True,
mhm.
because of the
yeah,
weirdness of the TARDIS as
And their
well.
father was right
yeah,
next to them, and
They had
yeah.
to find some way to separate
They
them.
still they still could have done it if they had jumped off just as the cart was going by.
That's a
You
yeah,
know,
possibility, I suppose. Yeah.
Mm.
but again, that would have caused room problems, which shouldn't
right.
happen. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And it's one
but
of those things of like they could have even also just had like him be like, "Hey, is there any last favors you want from me before I go?" And it's like, "Oh, well, here's a thing," and then they go back and say them.
Mhm.
Then,
Yeah, that would have helped.
all right. So my least favorite scene has nothing to do with how bad or anything it was. It's Napoleon at Waterloo in his short cloth. Because God, that thing became transparent, and as he was running up to go to the slide again, I could see his ass.
yeah,
Yeah, there was a couple times where
Mm.
I felt like I should have averted my eyes.
It's like this is
Yeah.
this is a park full of kids, and he's running around in transparent underwear.
Yeah, it didn't
Hmm.
help that
Yeah,
his entire outfit was suddenly white, and it's just like, oh dear.
yeah. If you
Yeah.
had made that a different color,
Hmm.
just saying,
Mhm.
Just
could have
it's
came
I
off
guess
okay.
in that yeah, I guess it's one of those things where it's a good thing that they weren't really showing him from the front much. Because that could have been very awkward and also would have been a thing. I almost think it's a thing of like, even though this has a bit more of a budget than Doctor Who usually does, it still was one of those we only have so much time.
We have so much time,
So
and suddenly
fuck
there
it.
was
This is
a
just what we
clothing
have.
error in choice, and it's like, oh, oops.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let's just not shoot him from the front.
Let's
Yeah.
not let's not shoot him from the front and make sure he's dried off before he starts running off anywhere.
Although you got to wonder how many kids in filming were traumatized by his dangly bits,
Like I said, make sure he's dried off before he runs
Right.
anywhere.
his gentleman vegetables.
His
Uh,
carrots and potatoes.
Yes. How many kids are still in therapy because of that?
God.
And
The world may
as
never
you're mentioning
know.
this, just a shocked photo of Bill and Ted on my screen right now.
I swear, Doctor, I turned around in the water park and I could see the whole thing.
Me too.
uh,
Oh, so that's it for bad scenes then.
Mm-hmm.
mm-hmm.
So that's final thoughts.
All right, so back to me. Final thoughts. Um, it's an interesting pilot. A lot of really good stuff done with it. There are a few moments that do seem to make you scratch your head and go, maybe if it was a year, couple years later, maybe some of the more head scratching stuff would have gone away. But also, there's the fact that one of the characters kind of gets sidelined to filler. But for the most part, this is a pretty solid outing, I would think. Lots of good visuals, pretty solid story. Most of the characters are generally likable, even if most of them are there for just comedic effect.
Hmm.
All right.
I guess that kind of covers it.
All right, Tim.
I wish they did more episodes like this where they play loose with fast and loose with time travel and history and cause and effectuality.
I actually do a little agree with you there that Doctor Who could use a little more time travel in its storylines. You don't see that
Yeah,
often.
Mm-hmm.
Usually he shows up someplace at the beginning of an episode, doesn't leave until the end of the episode, so all the time travel happens between A and B.
Mm-hmm.
There's only a few cases where you see the time travel happen in the course of the episode.
Mm.
And I think it's even rarer that they actually solve the problem of the episode with time travel.
oh yeah, very much so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I liked this design of the TARDIS. I think I preferred the other design to the TARDIS, where we actually see more of the interior of the TARDIS.
Where
But
it
that's
actually
just
has an extended inside, yeah.
Yeah, I think
a
part of
minor
it
nitpick.
might have been choosing a phone booth that has transparent windows.
Mm-hmm.
This kind of might have made that
That does
unfeasible.
lead to some issues, yes. They should have like blacked the back of it or something, maybe.
Mm.
Mm.
But I do wish that more writers would of the current Doctor Who series would watch this and like take notes.
Mm.
This is how you have fun.
So those are my 2 cents.
All right, Thomas.
This is very interesting. I mean, I haven't seen the 96 movie, so this is the only attempt at an American version of Doctor Who that I have seen, and I think they try way too hard in some ways to Americanize it. I mean, George Carlin's still good for what little we have of him, but
Hmm.
and it is too bad that we never got that. But yeah, um, like the tiny friggin' phone booth TARDIS, I don't like. God, that I just can't let that go. Like some of the effects I'll forgive just because regardless of the budget this had, this was still the 80s, so it was always going to look very
80s.
dated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, Doctor Who always looks its age.
Yeah. And like some of the jokes don't land as well. I mean, went on for a couple of minutes about one that, I will never let go of, but for the time, not that bad. I mean, I kind of wish they'd have another go at it, maybe try a different concept and maybe that would be a lot better. But yeah, like it would have been interesting to see what would have happened if this pilot had actually been picked up. But oh well.
All right. Bill?
All right. So this plays to comedic sense. It doesn't quite sync up with mine. There's definitely a few things I enjoyed, but a few things that really fall flat on me. Um, so looking at that, I could see why I wouldn't have been in a rush to watch a full series of this. That said, there are definitely some things that I enjoyed, and I believe there's also a another entry with these same characters that might expand on that and might that I might rewatch after this actually. Um, so that said, my overall feelings, I definitely think that it's a lot more comedy driven rather than story driven compared to what we're used to.
Hmm.
So that does is I think another thing that kind of hits a little off for me. That said, I don't dislike it. I did enjoy it, just not as much as I may have compared to certain other things um, that came out way more vague than I wanted. But I was just basically saying, it's not bad by any means, just not necessarily my cup of tea. Um, And yeah, I wished maybe could have done with a couple fewer characters just so that we could see some of them develop and act a little bit more. But otherwise, it set out what it was aiming to do.
All right. You done?
Yeah.
All right. So for me, this is a case of the Americans just don't get it. Um, and that was a major issue when somebody picked up a British show and tried to Americanize it back in, the 80s and early 90s. Is they tried to Americanize it way too much, and that's the case with this. I
Hmm.
mean, the TARDIS was a mistake. The companions, I could pick better companions than these two. They're idiots. And yes, they're trying to go for a lighter side of it, but I think they went a little too far. Um, and yes, they did not show enough of the Doctor. Carlin is an inspired choice if you're going to make an American Doctor. Um, but you know, he the Doctor has a more heroic role, and he doesn't in this. Like I said, he comes off as Rick from Rick and Morty. Here's your time machine, kids. I'm gonna go have a beer and watch porn. Is kind of how it felt like he was going. If he was dealing with a crisis back where he was, like time reverting and something, that would have been something to show and would have showed why he was not helping them. Instead, just handing them the proverbial keys and going off just doesn't make a lot of sense when you're basically your purpose is to try to make them pass. I don't know. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. And it felt very Americanized and kind of lame. All right. So let's rate this as a Doctor Who pilot. Matt.
I feel like there's a few things that need to be ironed out, mostly with the fluff and a few awkward moments. So I would say that's just barely enough to bring it down to a 4.5.
Jesus.
Just barely.
Jesus. Tim.
I think I will agree with Matt and give this a 4.5.
Jesus, you people are generous. Thomas.
Honestly, just because there are a lot of jokes that don't land and some stuff that just feels like filler on top of the thing I brought up before, I don't think I can go any higher than a 4.
Jesus Christ.
You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means.
Oh, I know exactly what it means. It means you people are crazy.
It means you keep calling on the name of a carpenter.
Bill.
I'm gonna say 3.5.
Little saner. I'm going to give this a 2.5. Because, yeah, I'm sorry, they just changed too much. Which would give this a 3.8. Had this actually been an episode of Doctor Who,
Yes.
and not Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, which is what we were actually reviewing. If you
Yes,
hadn't
we
figured it
fooled
out
you
by-
all.
Holy
hadn't
fudge, you
figured it
fooled
out
my
by
these
now.
images, had I not?
By the way, your ratings would have put this at number 192 had this actually gone on our list. I'm ashamed of you people.
We rated this
Oh, I
higher
thought
than
that was
Small
established
World.
years
I
ago.
rated
We
without. I only brought it down to 0.5 because it wasn't Doctor Who.
I would.
You rated this higher than the Daleks. You rated this higher than the moon base.
I would have actually penalized it more for things like the TARDIS if it
If it was
actually were an
legitimately
episode
like
of
Doctor
Doctor
Who,
Who.
yeah.
But
The thing
I didn't
is,
wanna
I
harp on it for
actually
that.
said rate it as an episode
True.
of Doctor
I
Who.
never
That
got
was
that
a
note.
clue.
But that's why I was more looking at the. Yeah, I mean,
I
I
was
get,
going
I
to
get what
run
you're
by the
saying.
ratings again and give it a rating as a moving by itself. I wanted to see what you guys were going to rate it as an episode of Doctor Who.
I'm sorry, no, I can't I can't see this thing's Doctor Who. It rates us what it is, not for being Doctor Who.
Because I mean, if we got into the whole, how can they pilot the TARDIS without a Time Lord and everything else, and that.
Yeah, there was
Yeah,
so much
would-
more we could have really just
Yeah.
dug
Right.
the freaking fork in.
Yeah.
See,
But
that's where I
just
figured
thought it
you
would
guys
not
were
be
going to go with
entertaining to
this.
listen to.
No, no.
The moral of my story at the end was going to be, if you're watching the 96 movie, you may think it's bad, but at least it's not Bill and Ted. And you guys freaking, where's the movie on our list? I need to know where we put the movie,
Probably lower than.
because I think you might have just completely and utterly destroyed my point.
Then my work is done.
Oh, where did we put the movie?
So you're going for points and you didn't hammer home the point that you were going for, so ergo fail.
I was trying to be very. I was
Chaos
trying
factor.
to be subtle about it. I was trying not to give it away, but apparently I have to use a hammer with you people. When did we do the movie?
I cannot, in good conscience, that negatively respond to a movie that I
TV
had general
movie.
fun watching.
Okay, no, Yes, we gave the TV movie a 2.75.
Oh wow.
Wow.
I
Who was the
don't-
negative ones on that
I don't
one?
think. Yeah, I don't think I was the negatives on.
The TV movie, Bill gave it a 3.5. I gave it a 4.0. Matt gave it a 3.5. Aaron gave it a 1.0.
Oof.
Damn.
Damn.
Oh, I'm
Oof.
yeah. Actually, no, excuse me. Bill gave it a 3.0. I gave it a 2.5. Matt gave it a 3.0. Aaron gave it a 2.5.
Oh, he looked
I
at
was
something else.
I was looking at the wrong one. I was looking at the end of
Gotcha.
time, which was the one that we reviewed after that.
Ah.
So yeah, we all kind of gave it crap.
Mhm.
So yes, none of us rated it as high as
And
you
the-
just rated Bill and Ted's
And the
Excellent
funny thing
Adventure.
about that is that I think half of our complaints about that were continuity related.
Uh-huh.
I don't think anybody who talked about the TARDIS here actually penalized it for the TARDIS.
And on that disappointing bombshell, it's time to end today's show.
Yes.
Boop, 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 boop. Whoa. Okay, Bill.
Okay, so you're waiting for. Okay, I thought you were going to the next week.
No,
one,
no.
But yes,
We do it afterwards.
please give us your thoughts in the comments about Bill and Ted, and judge it as a movie, judge it as a Doctor Who episode, judge it as both. Either way, let us know what you think. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or follow on Twitch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway,
So
yeah.
next week we will go back to the schedule that I had listed last week. We will be doing our tribute to John Barrowman. We will be doing Torchwood Greeks Bearing Gifts. As I had mentioned last week, this was, of course, just an April Fool's special. So we'll see you next week with the actual reviews.
Good night.
Good night.